What's going on, YouTube? It's Big Brother 749 coming back at you with another video. I want to talk about this big beautiful bill, or should I say this big ugly ass bill, because that name, Big Beautiful Bill, is clearly a nod to Trump's rhetoric. And when they say beautiful, it means beautiful for big corporations and not so much for the everyday American citizens. But as of right now, this bill has already been passed by the House, but not yet passed by the Senate. And Trump is pushing for the Senate to pass it and send it to his desk by the 4th of July, but it's facing some challenges in the Senate. Some Republican senators like Rand Paul and Ron Johnson, who are expressing strong opposition to this bill, particularly due to concerns about its impact on a national deficit. And even Elon Musk had also been vocal about the bill. And him and Trump, they're clashing and falling out over it. They was cool at first, but this bill started the feud since it could directly affect Elon Musk's business interests, such as tax credits for electric vehicles. And if the Senate makes changes to the bill, it would then need to go back to the House for another vote. So while it's made it through one chamber of Congress, it's still a long way from becoming law. And really, what the Senate needs to do is pour some gasoline on that bill, light a match, and burn that shit up. Because it feels like a sense of betrayal against the middle class. It's a big letdown and disappointment. Because the thing about Trump and a lot of these Republican officials, it's like they're always talking about making America great again and putting America first. But with this, it's like they're living in a different country. They're giving massive tax cuts to the rich and cutting programs that help us. And when they say it's for the middle class, I just shake my head. Because let me tell you something, not all middle class people live the same. Some of us are barely scraping by. Like me, for example, I'm trying to get a house. I'm trying to build some stability. But with these ridiculous high mortgage rates, it feels impossible. This big, beautiful bill ain't going to make it any easier for people like me to achieve that American dream. In fact, it feels like, it's pushing it farther away. And all it's doing is making me regret not getting a home before the mortgage rates went up. And I think about that all the time, and I get depressed about it, now that I'm going to be damn near 50 when I get my first house. And like I said, it just echoes a growing feeling of betrayal among a lot of middle class Americans when it comes to this bill. I mean, sure, President Trump and some of his supporters who don't know what the hell is going on are going to rave about it, promising tax cuts for them and a booming economy. But when you really dig deep into it, it's a different story for folks who are just trying to get by. And not all Trump supporters are for it, because some have became disillusioned. Some who voted for him to fix government spending might feel let down by this kind of bill. And who really benefits from it? Because like groups like the Tax Policy Center, they've confirmed what many of us had expected, because most of those tax cuts are going straight to the wealthiest people. And yeah, some middle class income families might see a tiny bit of relief, but the biggest breaks are for the super rich. Because for folks who are barely scraping by, any small tax cut is quickly eaten up by the soaring cost of living. And like I said, with those sky high mortgage rates, the dream of owning a home and that classic American dream feels like it's just slipping further away. It's exactly the kind of thing Bernie Sanders had been warning us about for years, that the system is rigged against working families. And like I said, even Elon Musk is against it. He's ripping into this bill. And Elon and Trump are clashing over it. And he was part of Doge at one point. He just left. But he called the bill a disgusting abomination, that's going to bankrupt America and massively increase the deficit. And even him, the Tesla guy, is slamming the bill pretty hard on Twitter. And I find that quite interesting, because Elon Musk actually helped out Trump in the past. So for him to call the bill disgusting is pretty wild, because it just shows how messed up the bill is. Even with someone who's usually on the same side as Trump, now they're feuding with each other over it. And this just proves what I've been saying all along. Trump's spending plans ain't good for the country. For someone who is close as Trump, like Elon Musk is, calling the bill a mountain of disgusting pork, saying that it will grow the deficit. All this does is just back the Democratic argument. It's a big deal when powerful people like Elon Musk can change their minds, as it could lead other folks in conservative groups, to become curious and question Trump's policies. And while Democratic voters like me disagree with a lot of what Trump does, I feel, this bill makes people think more critically about politics now. Even his strong allies are starting to see the issues with his policies. And this could be good for everyone. And Elon's really worried about how much it's going to cost us, well, him really. And this whole spat with Trump just shows how much disagreement there is about, what this bill is actually doing. But see, we told you, for folks who typically vote Democrat, it was like, aha, even Elon Musk agrees with us. And it's not that Elon Musk is a Democrat or give a shit about us now. He only cared about the bill when it realized that it's going to affect him also. But still, his concerns about the debt and how bad the bill was just confirms everything we've been saying. It makes us feel like our worries were valid. And he even went to say that the bill could mess up the work his team Doge was trying to do, to make the government more efficient and save money. If the guy who's saying he's trying to cut waste and saying that the bill was wasteful, that's a big red flag, because Doge was never authorized by Congress, and it led to thousands of federal workers being fired and laid off. And Elon, through his leadership, of Trump's Doge, was trying to gain access to Social Security information. He was saying that the Social Security was riddled with fraud. He made all these claims but couldn't come up with a single name of anyone who's receiving all this fraud money. That could have been investigated in a matter of minutes, if not seconds, but he hadn't started a single investigation, not one, because the only frauds are him and Trump. And he said that Social Security was riddled with fraud, and he was searching for fraud, but, has he offered evidence or fraud? I mean, him and Trump, would recognize it if they saw it, and there was no evidence of it being a huge problem. Instead of taking away something millions and millions of people have paid into, essentially stealing their money from them, money that many are meant to live on when they get old, why not just prosecute those who are committing the fraud? Don't penalize those who need it and have always played by the rules, because Doge wasn't about making the government better anyway, and the firing and the layoffs of thousands of federal workers just confirms it. It probably just got too complicated and political for him to deal with, to where you had innocent workers who ended up paying the price. And there were threats made against folks' livelihoods, and Democrats were fighting against it, but a lot of these Republicans were so freaking scary, because all it takes is 10 brave Republicans that will stop a whole lot of shit. But this whole situation with Trump and Elon Musk's feud just shows that even people with different backgrounds and goals, with Trump being a politician, well, not even a politician, but a crooked businessman, but technically a politician, and Elon Musk, a tech billionaire, can end up clashing over something that's fundamental as how we manage our country's money and priorities. This just shows that underneath all that political noise, there's often deep philosophical disagreements about who benefits from government policy and what kind of future we're actually building. Because with this bill, it's not just about taxes. They're talking about cutting Medicaid and food assistance programs, and people barely making ends meet, could lose their health care and make it to where they can't even buy groceries anymore. And how is that beautiful for anyone? It feels like they're sacrificing people who are already struggling just to make the rich even richer. And this is not what we voted for. We supported things like the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, because they promise real benefits like better roads, clean water, cheaper prescription drugs, and good jobs that don't need a fancy degree. Those bills were supposed to help everyday Americans. This big, beautiful bill feels like it's trying to undo all that good work. And the rage and the anger of what Trump is doing, what he has caused all these protests all over the country. And I read somewhere that on Saturday, June 14th, which is Trump's birthday, there's going to be massive No Kings nationwide protests, to where organizers like No Kings, the name of that movement, and other pro-democracy groups are planning to protest Trump's military parade on his birthday. And it's not going to be a riot. It's not going to be violent. And it's not to directly confront or physically disrupt Trump's military parade. But basically their goal is to draw attention away from the parade and onto their message. Because this just shows that everyone knows that this bill is all about helping corporations and the wealthy and not everyday Americans. And I'm not the only one who feels this way, because the people who are making $400,000 or more a year should be paying more taxes. They need to. The rich folks are not paying their fair share. And I'm sick and tired of it. And hell yeah, their taxes need to go up. I pay more taxes. They need to pay more taxes too. Because while they might call it a big, beautiful bill, promising prosperity for many in the middle class, it just feels like a punch in the gut. It's like they're taking away our chances of moving up by giving huge tax breaks to people who already have more than enough, and cutting programs that are supposed to help us build a stable life. a truly beautiful bill, in my opinion, will lift everyone up, not just a chosen few. And as Bernie Sanders would say, we need a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. So as we watch the Senate deliberate on this bill, my hope and the hope of so many working families across this nation is that they truly listen to the voices of their constituents and not just the corporations and the wealthy. My hope is that they see this bill for what it truly is, a betrayal, not a benefit, and choose to stand with everyday American citizens. And let's hope the Senate does the right thing and doesn't let this bill pass. But that's all I want to say, folks. This is Big Brother 749 signing out. I'm out. Peace.